Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone, and welcome to the Norwegian Institute of International Affairs. Good morning also to our online audience. My name is Kristin Fjestad. I'm a senior researcher at NUPI and also leader of NUPI's research group on Russia, Asia and international trade. And I have the honor today of chairing our seminar with Professor Irina Busygina. The seminar today is about Russian politics and more specifically about the relationship between the center, the Kremlin, and the Russian regions and how Russia's war against Ukraine has affected these relations. In today's seminar, we will set out from 4 key questions about center regional dynamics. What is the role of the regions in the war? To what extent and how are center region relations part of the resilience of the authoritarian system in Russia? What could be potential tipping points in this relationship? And are there any signs of erosion of Russia's center regions model? And we are incredibly glad to have Professor Irina Busygina with us today to answer these questions. I think you're very well positioned to do so. Irina is a research fellow at the Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies at Harvard University. Previously, she worked as a professor of comparative politics at the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the Higher School of Economics in St. Petersburg in Russia. She has, for a long time, studied federalism and decentralization in a comparative perspective. She has also published several books and academic articles on Russian domestic and foreign policy, including on Russia-EU relations, and also recently on Russia's role in post-Soviet Eurasia. Professor Busygina will today present the key arguments from her recently published book, Non-Democratic Federalism and Decentralization in Post-Soviet States from 2024, co-authored with Mikhail Filippov. The book is based on many years of research on center region dynamics and compares the cases of Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. After Busygina's presentation, senior researcher Matthew Blackburn from NUPI and research professor Jørn Holm Hansen from the Norwegian Institute for Urban and Regional Research at Oslo Met University will be invited on stage to provide comments. And we will also make sure that there is a lot of time for questions from the audience. I know that Irina loves questions, so we will have plenty of time to discuss. I should also mention that this event is streamed live, and you will find a recorded version at NUPI's YouTube channel. The seminar today is organized in collaboration with the Norwegian Institute for Urban and Regional Research at Oslo Met, and I want to thank Jørn and Marte for the initiative. So without further ado, Irina, the floor is yours, and we look forward to it.
Morning. You can hear me, right? So it's all okay working. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Christine. I would start with saying, we're a trivial thing, but still very honest, very sincere, my deep gratitude to NUPI for organizing this event. Martha, Jørn, my friends, Jakub, I'm so happy to see you after this after these years of seeing each other only virtually. Now we have the fantastic possibility to meet, and I'm very pleased to share with you some ideas. I will just in a second explain what will be the structure of my presentation. I'm prepared to talk hours about my book because if you write a book, it's like a child. You want to talk and talk and talk and discuss. So, but we don't have that much time, so I will try to be as brief as possible. And starting with the statement that it's not my book. So it's a child, but not only my child. And this book was kind of produced and written in the co-authorship of Mikhail Filippov from SUNY Binghamton. So the State University of New York, we have a very, very long, many years of collaboration. Right, and without any delay, so what should I do with this thing? So this is the book. This is the book. And this is the book which is called, as Christian said, Non-Democratic Federalism and Decentralization, Post-Soviet States, published by Routledge in the beginning of this year. So this is a new book. This is a new book, but this is a many, many years of work. So here I would start to, I will tell you something about the book, right? But we will talk about, today we'll talk about more about Russian authoritarian federalism and Russian and decentralization. So I will talk about the book first and then come to the Russian situation more specifically. So indeed, many years of extensive research on Central-regional relations in Russia. So this is, I think I'm doing research on this topic not less than 20 years, or probably even more. And it was all about Russia, and then we decided to expand the geographic scope to test where our ideas could be applied for the wider region of the post-Soviet space, and that's why we took 3 country cases, namely not only Russian Federation but also Ukraine and Kazakhstan. Although the book, if you would read the book, you would see that this is very much biased towards Russia. But still, we tried to do this exercise in comparative research. And what we tried to do, you know, the structure is like this. We first talk about theory, and then we take these 3 country cases. You know, it should look like this. So this is the 3 country cases. This is Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan, and 2 crises. You know, so this is cross-cutting. So we tested three cases through 2 crises. One, this is all crises, we know about them, so they are recent. This is the COVID-19 pandemic first, and this is the war against Ukraine unleashed by Russia in 2022 as our second testing case. The idea was our very ambitious idea was to move forward the theory of authoritarian federalism. I don't want now to start the discussion whether federalism could be theoretically authoritarian. There is no consensus about this matter. We can discuss if we want. We can discuss many things. So, but first to talk about theoretical, to understand not federalism, by the way, but to understand the modern authoritarian political systems, how they are using these institutions. So this book about federalism and decentralization, but in the authoritarian settings. So how the institutions are used. But also our kind of idea was not only be with theory. This is an academic book. So our first reason was writing it was about advancing our understanding of the theoretical things about modern authoritarian systems, but also about practical policy implications. Because our idea is when people think about what is about Russia, what will be Russia, what approach could the West, should the West take regarding to Russia now and post-Putin Russia. We think we could also contribute to these ideas, stressing that the war made the issues. Look at this slide, so this is the last point. The war made the issues of Central-regional relations even more important. Because I'm absolutely convinced, and this is trivial, but this is my conviction, that the Moscow could not continue this war without regions, without full support of the regions. Okay, the decision about war was made by Putin, or I don't know whom, or the ruling clique, okay, but in Moscow. But the realization of war, the implementation of war, this is a regional thing. These are the regions where the mobilization is going, in the regions, the conscript. This is about the regions. Who is feeding the war with material resources, with the equipment? These are the regions. So the regions and their full support and loyalty are the sine qua non, so absolutely imperative condition for continuing the war. Right, and here I quote from the last Putin's address to the Federal Assembly. I think it was in March this year. Who to entrust the country to? What country? Russia country. So this is, and then this is the who entrust to, and the idea to the heroes, and who are the heroes? The heroes are those who are returning from the front line. These people who are returning in masses now from the front, and where do they return? Do they return in Moscow? No, they are returning in the regions. In the regions, so the regional situations with the war, and this is another argument why the regions are so important. These people with their, I would say, experience of violence, and generally the war experience, they are returning to the regions, and what will happen to these people? Many of them would go to the regional administrations. So, because this is to entrust the country to, means to put this region, serve Russia in the regions, in the regional administrations. So we are going to observe the change of the composition, at least with my perspective, the change of the composition of the regional administrations in Russia, kind of with this contribution of the people with completely different experience, non-bureaucratic experience. Bureaucratic experience they don't have as none, but they do have the military experience, and they are not afraid of violence. And I would say this is one of my most concerns, being not only an academic, but being also a Russian citizen. So what is this book about? This was a kind of an introduction. This is about the modern autocracies. Again, huge literature. I like this topic. Modern autocracies are different. We say all the time modern autocracies are different if we would compare them to the 50s, 60s autocracies. But how different they are first, and what does that mean? If we want to build a reasonable policy versus modern autocracies, what do we need to take into consideration? And this is the federalism, okay, the elections, their membership in the international organizations, there is literature about this, but about how they use the institutions designed for democracies, how they do use them. This is an open question, and I think this is a very important question, because they don't invent their own institutions. They use what they have from democracies. And federalism, you know, like 10 years ago, the conviction was, among the researchers, was consensus, that federalism is not compatible with autocracy. It is not, because it's only for democracy. But this is not the case. We see that they not only do they use them, but they use them in the purpose of the political survival of the incumbents. So they made, so this is use or misuse, but from the threat, because federalism is always a threat, potential threat to the autocratic leader, but they make them one of the pillar of their political survival. And here, this is what I want to say: the federalism are useful instruments in the hands of the personalist rulers. So, what we try to understand, the personalist regime through looking, and federalism and decentralization was our point of entry into understanding these regimes, in particular in the territorially large and diverse autocracies, and here Russia would be the best example. The arguments. So these two slides. They are about theory, but I will still try to be again brief with them because they are. And this is what we consider as our main theoretical contribution. The main theoretical contribution, because we need to understand theoretically how could they use these institutions of federalism. And we come forward with the size of the ruling coalition. And I will try to be very sketchy about this. So this is the idea is that the problem in the personalist regime, that you have very small ruling coalition by default, because this is a personalist regime. So this is a small group. It can be one dictator. It can be a small group of dictator, how we say Putin and his inner circle. But this is by default. This is a small group. But the country is large. The group is small, but the country is large. So how can you solve the dilemma of having the coalition small and controlling all the country, because you are an authoritarian personalist ruler? And our idea is these are the institution of federalism that would allow you to non-contradictively combine the size of the ruling coalition being small and controlling the whole country by making this coalition multi-layered, by decentralizing this coalition and make a separation between this part of the coalition which indeed rules, making all the strategic decisions about the country, and which is still on the top of the hill. So this is the king. And then you would have these people who would be the not, and here I want to stress it, here in this slide, to stress, you don't, this is not about creating vassals or creating like passive subordinates. Passive subordinates, and from this is the famous idea, regional governors in Russia are the victims of the Putin regime. But they are not. They are not. They are the stakeholders. And this is the trick of how making from passive subordinates, making the stakeholders, who not only defend Putin, who not only shield Putin from the policy failures, but who enthusiastically are doing this, who are interested in doing this because their personal survival depends on the survival of Putin. This is what the personalist regime is doing. It's not about this primitive, it's simplistic idea that was very much probably true about the old time autocracies. So the main idea of the autocrat is to control everything. No. The main idea if modern autocrat is exactly not to control everything, but to be as flexible as possible and to exercise control, okay, control and domination in the strategic spheres only, and, you know, allowing quite a big, you know, quite large scope for decentralization and their own decisions. So this is the idea. This is why they are different. It's not, and if we still address the modern autocracies with our old perceptions of how they function, we are lost. We will make miscalculation all the time. That's why I think that what we are working on is not only theoretically important, but also policy perspective, policy making importance. Okay, so this is about division of the coalition, which I just explained, and about multi-level power structure. Okay, so and what is the outcome? What is the result when you are building the system like this and making the relationship like that? So what would you do? You will have the stability and the size of the ruling coalition. So this is what I already said. So you solve the main problem, absolutely the main dilemma of how to combine the small size of the ruling coalition with governing the whole large and very diverse country, also ethnically diverse, linguistically diverse, religiously diverse, and so on and so forth. Blame shifting would be the second argument. So this gives you the possibility, good literature about that, not only, by the way, about autocracy, but also about democracies, that federalism create conditions for the blame shifting. So this is from the, okay, no, I want to say something now, but I will say it later. So the blame shifting, you can shift the blame to the other, to your stakeholders, to your smaller brothers, if you want, but not to passive subordinates. No, but to those who are ready to do it, also at the expense of their own popularity. And this is what the governors are doing. They are that much ready to shield Putin from all the fatalities of this potential mistakes of the regime. And then legitimacy. This is a very important question. It deserves another seminar, I would say. You know, about the question about legitimacy. How can this regime be legitimate? How can it be legitimate across the whole territory of the country? You know, and we all know what is legitimacy. Legitimacy is then you can present the current political situation not as an ideal. And remember, Putin never presented the situation in Russia and his reign in Russia as an ideal. No, he's not that stupid. He's not stupid at all. He presented this situation, what they have in Russia is the best of the feasible solutions. Best of the feasible solutions. Okay, he said there are probably many others. There is a paradise, but that is not feasible on our earth. You know, so I propose you the best feasible solution. But how you can keep the population feel the same, again, for the governors, through this regional through the regional framework. And this is one of the most important things, especially after the war started. Because this is what suffers the first after the start of the main crisis? Legitimacy. Legitimacy, and you can very easily come to the legitimacy crisis. This is not the case of Russia. It's absolutely not the case, and on the contrary. So what is Russian central regional model? The main condition is that this is non-democratic character of the political system. This system, which we analyzed and explained, cannot exist in democracy. It's an authoritarian system. And in particular, if we talk about Russia, this is the special type of the authoritarian rule. This is the personalist regime. The governors are the stakeholders, as I already told you. Bargaining between Moscow and the regions is excluded. There are a lot of instruments. You know, how you do it, because you can be more abstract and say the system works like this and this. So this is, but then you come to what are the mechanisms? And this is here. I tried to list some of these mechanisms. So this is the control of the elections. The elections are still there, because the regime still presents itself as a democracy. If you ask Putin what is Russia, he would say, Russia, it's democracy. It's democracy, absolutely. So we have elections, national, regional elections, strict control of the elections, redistribution financial redistribution, non-representation of regional interests, and so on and so forth. But this is okay. This is permanent guidance from the on the governance from the side of the presidential administration and Mr. Kiriyenko, who is personally responsible for the regional bloc and political bloc in the administration. Importantly, these channels work in combination. This is important to know. Everything works in combination. You cannot just take any channel out of the system. This is a combination of instruments. They work together. This is important. And another kind of condition for surviving this model, this is the weak horizontal links between the region. I put here legacy, because this is Russian legacy. This was the same thing in the Russian Empire. This was the same thing in the Soviet Union. This was the same thing during 90s, then we still believed in the Russian democratization under the presidency of Boris Yeltsin. The same thing, the same kind of, I don't know, curse of Russia. Curse of Russia, very weak horizontal links at the expense of the vertical links, the horizontal links between the regions, horizontal, no hierarchy. Right. So, importantly, so this is what I just told you. This could kind of made an impression that this is again about power vertical. How this is described in I would say almost all of the studies on the Russian central regional relations, this is power vertical. And if I close my eyes and see what is power vertical, so I just imagine this vertical, this boom, 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 this control from Mr. Putin himself to the last citizen of the Russian Federation. But this is not the case. Again, this is what is tricky about this model, that this is not the case, because beyond certain strategic things, this is considerable decentralization in Russia. Power vertical doesn't mean it, and this would be very unpractical and very, I would say, excuse me for this, but stupid if Putin would come forward with the idea to control everything, because the very scope of the country doesn't allow him to control everything. So, and this is not the idea, and this is not the goal of the regime to control. This is the idea to combine the control with decentralization. These are not total centralization. These are, although the model presupposes the red lines for regional governance. This is full support of Putin and popularity. This is no doubt. This is no idea about kind of doubting, you know, the right of Putin, his right to govern, his idea to 6 years and now and more 6 years, you know. So he's no Putin, no Russia. So all these fantastic things that you know from Mr. Volodin. To full support of Moscow's social obligations to the population, like the May decrees, like the national programs, you know. So this is the regions are exercising and implementing. This is the social obligations that Moscow gives to the region, to the population all over Russia. But the regions are those who implement it, and this is no idea not to do it. So here the regions are controlled, regional governors are controlled very much. This is also the patriotic agenda. Mobilization, the regional governors are the key figures in implementing the conscript and the figures. So this is sent by the presidential administration. How many people should be mobilized, should be conscripted to the army, to the war against Ukraine? And this is also the social patronage, because social patronage, this is very widely and even more widely spread phenomenon in Russia, because there are many groups, social groups which are influenced by the war, and these are the families of those who are conscripted, their children, their relatives, their wives, you know. So this is the whole thing, how they are paying for him, what kind of exceptions they make for the they don't need to pay loans for the banks, you know, all these things, you know. And this is so they are in a special situation, and this is, I call it the circle of war, because the circle of the war are not only these people who go to the war and who send them to the war, but these are the whole people who are there, who are close to these people, who go to the war, and there are more and more and more of those people and more of those groups, and this will be the more the war goes on, the more the circle of war is expanding, and this is expanding right now on our eyes. And these people, these groups, are under the special patronage of the regional governors. So this is important, and this is absolutely kind of, again, a red line. The governors just should do it and have no what to discuss. But beyond these tasks, regional administrations have their hands free in making relations with the business and making relations with the, I don't know, local educational system, agriculture, and so on and so forth. So this is how you combine the strict control here, and I would say kind of loose decentralization in the other spheres. And this is about personalist regime. Previously, we didn't think of the personalist regimes like that. But now we need to understand how flexible they can be, how skillful, how smart they can be. And this is for me, this is kind of new thinking about the authoritarian regimes. Not only in Russia, by the way. Now, the war. I'm trying to, so the war, the Kremlin has delegated new areas on responsibility after the war, so the question was what changed with the war. The new, and this is again the contribution to decentralization, social patronage. The main political message is different, so this is, we try to see it. So the main message to the governors previously during COVID, it was, this is handle COVID the best as you can, so the initiative is yours. So the national challenge was regionalized during COVID. Every governor was kind of himself, stood himself in front of the crisis, COVID-19, challenged by crisis. But now this is not the case. The war is different and the message is different. Now this is all our problem. This is Russia. This is our existential fight against everything, against the West, against the US, European Union, Nazis in Ukraine, you know, all this possible blah blah blah. So this is, but we are together against the big evil, and we are good, and this is evil. Now, what is important? And here I come to the last point, Christine, about the degradation / erosion of the model. This is how I put it. You know, this is what I did in the last. I have 3 slides, but in these slides, this and the other. So these are about the degradation, because when they think about this model, you know, for me, very personally, I can tell you that I admire and hate this model at the same time. Because I admire how smart it was built. Because Russia is a very complicated country. But they managed to do it. They, I mean, the Kremlin. Okay, so I cannot but admire it. How skillful, how smart they were to build it. But at the same time, I'm thinking, what are the weak points? Can it be eroded? Can it be, you know, can it be undermined, and how? And so what are the sources of resilience? And thinking about this, I was looking about the arguments, what the people would say, what the other people would say about this. So, and whether it kind of correspond to my ideas. So the first, and here I come to three arguments, how this model could be eroded. First, it could be eroded because of the non-professionalism and bad governance. This is not from the book. This is not written in the book, by the way. This is just I present you now. So this is about bad governance. So this is create expectations that the model is about to collapse. Frankly speaking, I'm listening to this since 15 years at least. That Russian regime is in agony. So this is bad governance, bad governance, bad governance. So what? Probably it's bad governance, but it doesn't collapse at all. It can it's a accumulating problem. It doesn't solve problems. Yes, but it still exists. And it's not only exists, it operates. It operates even during crisis, and not only in normal condition. So, and this is the point. So for me, this bad governance argument somehow, yeah, sure, it's the governance not good on the Western standards. We would say it's corruption, you know. It's non-professionalism, but this is not the source of potential erosion of the model. So this is another way of thinking. And when you compare, then you cannot say just bad governance. You need to compare it with good governance, right? Bad governance doesn't exist. This is relational. This is absolutely a relational thing. So the second was about good governance. So this is from the other kind of the spectrum. Good governance in the regions. That the regions, what did they do? They accumulated a lot of experience. This is good models of the regional governance, and they at some point, no one knows at which point, by the way, but at some point they should challenge Moscow. They should challenge Moscow. this is the hope for regional elites. So this is the hope for also probably for regional and federal elites. This is the hope also for regional elites, or only for regional elites, that they would not tolerate Moscow. My question is why? Why shouldn't they tolerate when their first priority is to shield Putin? You know, because they still don't have enough incentives, you know, to challenge Moscow. No way, for me. And the third, this is about protests. Protests here, protests there. Bashkortostan, Orenburg, then the people remember all the time the poor Khabarovsk, you know, with the governor Furgal, you know, which produced no influence in Russia whatsoever, you know, but it was a case. But still, the idea is look at the protests. I understand. I'm probably you know, but this is. I was just trying to make a collection. So what would be the idea of erosion? Because my idea of erosion is very different, and this is here. So this is what I already told. This is not a problem. Good governance is combined with the incentives to shield Putin, and this is important. All crises, all regional and local crises, like the protests, they are localized. They are local. They produce no national effect, not at all. So in the system, they are kept local within the region. You know, this is no coordination between these protests and the other protests in Russian territory. So what do they mean? These are all cases which are not trends. But we are looking not for cases, because Russia is a country when you can find everything, because the country is so large. Look at any, you can find evidence for everything. But the problem is that these are cases. And we need to separate the cases from trends, and we need to identify trends and not cases. And this is about cases. But is there any kind of idea of the erosion of the model? Yes, I think. So this is a different approach. So this is the idea that the erosion of the model would come if Moscow has to delegate more and more areas of responsibility to the regions, and it makes it more dependent on the regions. The more you have to delegate, and this is really more and more. So this is the idea of dependency. Again, these are ideas. I didn't make research on this, but this is kind of what I'm looking at, what is important. The governors are increasing their legitimacy, again, the importance of legitimacy in the eyes of the population. So this is not, by the way, supported by the model. In this model, the governors are the stakeholders, but they should not be legitimate in the eyes of the population. But during the war, they are getting this legitimacy. And this doesn't lead to the erosion of the model as long as, how I put it here, as the growing legitimacy of regional governors can be combined with maintaining Putin maximum legitimacy. But if it's not combined, you know, so then this balance could imply the potential erosion of the model. But still, this is not hope for the population for me. It's not the hope for the regional elites. So the hope, I would say, is here on the side of Moscow, and the shifting of this kind of legitimacy from Moscow to the regions in a way that they cannot be combined contradictively. And here are my last slide. So what follows from all of this? Federalism is a critically important pillar of Russian authoritarian resilience during the war. Again, I'm convinced that without full support, you know, this is the Moscow, no possibility to continue the war without full support of the regions. And this is about here I want to stress the uniformity. You know, if I would imagine, it's difficult, but if I would imagine even one case of the regional disobedience, open disobedience of the regional governor, it would be very detrimental for the model, even one case. Because the region, the pillar of the region, and if kind of constituent feature is uniformity. Uniformity, okay, you can say me, what about Kadyrov, what about the other cases? Yes, this is another thing, this is about the Moscow, this is also flexibility. The Moscow is in a way, it's also asymmetric, but generally it is uniform. And if we would say even one case of something which would go not how Putin see how it should be, it would be more than what this would be very detrimental for the. This is at least how I see it. Okay, what is the problem? And this is what is the problem? And this problem is caused by the regions. That in the current model, this is virtually impossible for Moscow to make any fatal mistakes. You know, Putin is shielded from the mistakes. And this is important, because I was thinking, I don't know how about you, because not all of you are interested that much in Russia and in these cases, but I was thinking, is there any mistake that Putin could make which would kind of turn the situation or change the situation principally with the support of the war? What should he do? What should he do? And my answer was, I don't know. I really don't know what could he do that would negatively and seriously affect his ability to making the war. And why is the situation as it is? One of the explanations, because of the regions, because of the central regional model. And my last point is about the reformability of the model. Can this model be reformed? And this is again because we still hear some voices also from Russia, and not only from Russia. Let's improve the current authoritarian federalism in Russia. The idea is, in our idea, and this is what follows from the theory, that this is not possible. You know, it's not reformable. It is, you cannot reform it unless Putin is at power. You know, you can either it can collapse, it can fail. This is possible. You know, with a combination of the different reasons, yes, it is possible. But it's not possible to reform it. So this model fits very much with the current Russian autocratic regime, and this is they kind of they are making each other, they are reinforcing each other. So the idea to reform, to make the federal relations better, it will never work. And this is again for me, this is also not theoretical but also practical implications of what we think about what is Russian regime and Russian situation now, and how it will develop in the future. Thank you very much. I stop here. I was too long. Sorry for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irina. If we now pull up the screen, Therese, I can invite you back up, but then also Matthew and Jørn, if you want to join us on stage. Let's see. If I sit here, if you sit here, Irina, and Jørn and Matthew, if you just pull the chairs a little bit towards you, please.
Okay.
You sit there, Irina, and then Jørn next to you. Okay. So, thank you so much for a really engaging presentation, and I think you've already yourself posed several questions that we can pick up in this discussion. But we have asked Matthew Blackburn, who is my colleague here at NUPI, and Jørn Holm Hansen from Oslo Met, to start with some comments. So please, Matthew, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you for the chance to read the proofs of the book. We've ordered a copy for NUPI, so I'll be able to read the final version in due course. But the story of state building, federalism is a crucial part of understanding Russian politics, and it's great to have a book that brings all this together and also adds this comparative dimension, which we didn't have a chance to talk about today. So I have a couple of comments and questions at the end of each comment, so hopefully I'll make it a bit sharper, because any theory of federalism requires some kind of relationship to state building and a theory of state. And one thing that was emphasized in the book is that, you know, the strong leader runs roughshod over institutions. There's a ruling clique around Putin, and so I was wondering what your view is on this dual state model that sometimes is used in the literature by Nikolai Petrov or by Sakwa. You know, that there's an administrative regime run by Putin, manual, ручное управление, and there's the technocratic institutions that have different logic of governance. These two are in tension, but that there's evidence in the last 10 to 15 years that the technocratic institutions are getting more autonomy and more kind of space. So, because coding Russia as a personalist regime I thought was questionable. It could be argued it's electoral autocracy. That's Matovsky's argument. How it could be called also a party-dominated regime, a hybrid of the two, because we have United Russia, we have elections, we have the important function of collecting and counting election and keeping the vote count high. That is an important job for the regional heads. So, in the conclusion of the book, there was also the point made that when we read China, we have a problem with reading Xi. Is it a personalist regime or is it party-dominated? Is it a hybrid of the two? Is there a continuum? So is it about perhaps the dual state as a way out of this, that all autocratic states are in some kind of flowing dynamic continuum between administrative regime in the center and the institutions? Another comment was, the question was actually about what would you say about, because there's some points made about comparison with the Soviet system in your book, about the role of United Russia and the FSB in comparison to the Communist Party and the security services of the Soviet Union, the party cells, the Aktivy and all this. I wonder if you might answer that, how you see the role of the comparison. You said there has been some Soviet practices brought back. So anyway, okay, moving on very quickly about legitimacy, because I think that's a fascinating topic. I've also written a bit about it. And you make this point very clear that we have to understand legitimacy in a different way in a non-democratic context. And it seems like we often miss a lot. There was more pluralism in the 90s, but there was more dysfunctionality and systemic crisis and a kind of failed state trajectory. I know you've written about that elsewhere. Would you argue that state capacity increases in the regions across the board in the last 20 years? And this is the essence of the performance legitimacy. I mean, about the blame game, does anyone actually see the regional heads as independent actors today? Are they not just appointed administrators? I mean, you say they're stakeholders of the regime, but they're not the source of the political direction or the reforms. That's coming from elsewhere. So it seems like they have a kind of implementation and reporting function, reporting back to the centre, implementing the centres. So I wonder if you might respond to this. The key performance indicators on infrastructure development, governance reform, also about key performance indicators or technocratic kind of markers. But then, I guess I'm trying to really push this through that, how much accountability is to the centre and not to the population, and delivering kind of on these targets. There wasn't much discussion about the stability of cadres, the amount of people that get fired, and the logic that's used to remove regional heads. And it looks like quite a lot get removed, far more than in any kind of comparison with the Brezhnev system or something like this. So I guess coming back to this question of legitimacy, and I think you're pushing back on maybe the Gelman argument on bad governance, that really the baseline is the 1990s. The expectations are quite low in the regions, and based on that is the success story. This is the hard thing for us to grasp. The question is then, what are the main success stories in the regions? I don't know what your view is on that. So, final point, because I don't want to take up too much time with this discussant kind of style. I'm more to generate questions. I was hoping you'd mention Sergei Furgal as this kind of very important case. You said we were looking for a case of when something was going to go wrong in the regional system and it could prove something. And here I know you wrote in the book about the school of governors, preparing these people to go become governors, the parachuting in of people that don't have any ties to the region, these patriotic ratings and other kind of ratings of governors. It's a sense that, well, the first part of the question is, what happened with Sergei Furgal in your view, and who was acting against him, if you could say something about it, because he was obviously, he's a representative of LDPR, systemic opposition, and not considered to be a danger. So it seemed like there was a preemptive move to get rid of him, arrest him. And that gives me this bigger question of, what is a regional head? It's not a finishing school for someone to get a job in the government or the Kremlin, perhaps. It appears to be some kind of political dead end. Why would a young, smart person enter regional government? Where would they go? And that's brings me to thinking about, for example, Alexei Navalny never attempted to enter regional politics. So I wonder if you might say something about that, you know, is a kind of a dead end, or it's somewhat stagnant regional politics in terms of if you were to go in and try and change Russia, you're a young person and you want to try and improve your country. And it seems like Frugal case reveals quite a lot, but then at the same time we don't know so much. You know, this brings me to the final question, which is about, maybe if you could say something about the competing power structures. I mean, you have a regional head, above them there's the presidential administration. There's also the Polpred, the presidential envoy to the Far Eastern Federal District in the Frugal case. There's also the mayors, who seem to be diminished in stature. But then you've got the Silivikia, the FSB. They are operating quite a lot, as far as I understand, in regional politics and central periphery relations, and it seemed to be quite active. So I just wonder if you might use Frugal case to kind of open up that can of worms. But thanks for the chance to read the book. I really enjoyed engaging with it.
Thank you, Matthew. I think we'll just go directly to Jørn. Yes, please, Jørn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your book. It was very interesting. I haven't read all of it yet. And your presentation. I have just a few questions in addition to Matthew's. The first one is perhaps quite fundamental one. Is really Russia a federal country? Do they have federalism? Because the way you present it and the way I see it, it is not. And we know from federalism studies that several countries are have a federalist system on the paper. Other countries reject it, but they practice it, like Spain, for instance. At least practice it to a certain extent. Because of this concept of federal society, that if there is a kind of territorially concentrated identity or interests in a country, then sooner or later you develop federal practices. So what I see from your description of the Russian system is that it is personalist, but they have not decentralized but deconcentrated personalism. From my experience from Russian regions, you have the governor is the local Putin. He's very big. And it used to be that even in the 1990s, I remember I was going back and forth from Arkhangelsk with a local or regional airline company, and in the in-flight magazine I counted, I think, 38 pictures of the then Arkhangelsk governor. So it's so that's one question. Is it really federal? And then again, referring to Putin's famous remark on ticking time bombs. The Soviet Union was a ticking time bomb because the constituent republics had the right to secede. Of course, this contemporary Russia inherited this federal, formal federal system. Of course, the constituent entities, the so-called federal subjects in Russia, do not have the right to succeed, but the system might create some expectations among people that, at least in some cases, perhaps not Voronezh and Vladimir and so on, but Bashkortostan, Chechnya, Tatarstan could develop a kind of, okay, we are a kind of entity that should be a state. At least we should have more autonomy. Not now, but in the future. Do you think that is likely to happen? And I know that there are supporters of the idea that we, that is the West, should support nationalist groups, separatist groups, exiled spokespeople of Bashkirs and so on. It is a real possibility. And my third question is about cities, because I think Russia has 13 or something like that cities with more than 1 million inhabitants. And we know that, in our part of the world, cities play a tremendously important role as forerunners in the United States, in the global south, in Europe. One example is measures against climate gas emissions. And cities have energy, they have money, they have intellectual capacity. Could the large cities in Russia be a kind of, in a way, more interesting to look into as platforms for opposition than these constituent entities, federal subjects? Yeah.
Thank you, Jørn. I think, Irina, you will start. You can just respond to the very small, few and small questions that you got. And I promised the audience that we would have time for questions from the audience. So I suggest that you have like 10, 15 minutes of responses or a bit back and forth, and then we...
I can be even shorter.
Okay.
Because this is indeed very, very kind of... Very
easy questions to answer.
Very easy questions. Thank you very much, Matthew. Thank you very much, Johan. I cannot. There are many questions indeed, and I can happen to respond to all of them. But I will try to do that. So I will since I have not that much time, I will pick what I can answer, what I can respond. No, I will try to do the job as I can. So the first, this is about dual state. Right, so this is about dual state. This is about party electoral authoritarianism. I have several considerations about that. First, I think that the Western analytics and probably also Russian analytics, when the Russian analytics still had the right to write something, we were much too slow with understanding, and or probably we didn't want to label the Putin political regime what it was, and I think it was not a mistake, because I understand the sources, but still, in Russia, this is for me it is about electoral authoritarianism. It was the Putin system was evolving all the time since he came to power in the year 2000, and now this is 24 years. Right, and even when it was completely clear that the Putin regime was already consolidating as authoritarian, it was still called hybrid. I can remember it. It was still called hybrid. It was not hybrid anymore. For years, it was still called hybrid. Then it was. I think it was already personalist. My idea, my opinion. But it is still called electoral authoritarianism, as if we didn't want, we just said, nichivo, okay, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. It's still normal. It's still not a deviation. What kind of personalism now in the 21st century? Small Putin, but now small Putin is the big threat to the world. I would say, to the world's security. What is this? So we were, I would say, much too slow, and I think this is a personalist regime. This is not a party regime. This is very important, because the idea was, I remember this idea was also very much promoted by the presidential administration to increase the role of the United Russia Party. On the model of the Communist Party, and this is here, we could look at the Soviet Union, and all this, because this was a party regime, right? And the Chinese regime is the Communist Party of China regime. But this is, I think this is a very important distinction, that Russia is not a party regime. That they tried to do this, but it was not, this bird didn't fly. The United Russia, this is not the source of legitimacy in Russia. It plays a role. It does play a role. It also plays a role for my original studies, because the secretary of the party, who is Turchak, he is the former governor, and almost all the regional governors are the members of the United Russia Party, and they are kind of controlled in a way, so they are monitored and guided, by the way, from the United Russia Party. But still, but the United Russia, this is not the kind of the main ruling agent of Russia, you want. This is not the driving force. This is a personalist regime. I would say this is a personalist Putin regime. It's not a party regime, and I think this label. I don't like labels generally, but still I think this label is important because from this label, from this nomination, from this how we name it, follows how we treat it, what we expect from this regime. This regime is not about parties generally. It cannot tolerate the parties, even if this is United Russia Party, but this is party as a collective body. But this is something different. And the idea of the dual state. I think the first who was talking about the dual state was not Kolya Petrov, but Richard Sakvar. Yes, so because he wrote a book about this, and he was yes, it was. I think this is Richard. I think hopefully he would forgive me, but this was his invention. This was his big theory, about the dual state. I don't think this is the dual state. We can discuss it later. Because for me it's in this case it's what is dual state? What can be learned from it? What does that mean? What we can expect? What will be the outcome? If we call it the dual. So this is. One of the things that you would with the dual state, with stressing, emphasizing this duality, you would also emphasize the role of the technocratic system, right? So these are these politicians. This is the Putin clique, but this is also, but look at these technocrats now. Look at the role of the Nabiullina. What is this? What is this technocratic? Where is Mr. Kudrin? Где он? Where is Mr. Kudrin? Where he's in? Huh?
Mishustin's government and his kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, this is less and less technocratic. I think we still think about these technocrats and these young technocrats as the regions as the regional heads. What is needed in the time of war is not technocratic at all. It is not technocratic. You have the technocrats. One of the main ideas was less communication with the population, right? So this population as a principle was cut out. So this was your principle was in Kremlin, right? And this was the technocratic idea, and you are not accountable to the population. But this is not the case now, because of the war. Paradoxically, the governors are now communicating much more with the population. Much more. They have to go. They have to publish their posts in the Telegram. They have to meet this. They go to schools, even if not to the kindergarten, to tell about what is happening and all this. So this is you cannot keep the people like the political stability without communicating to the population. This is not possible. It was possible prior to the war, but this is not now. I think this is one of the changes of the war. This is that. And this is good that you brought me to this idea that one of the changes of the war, this less technocratic skills are less needed, more communicative and more politician-like, not in democracies, but still, probably more demagogic, more opportunistic, who knows?
Logical.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is also about legitimacy. Performance legitimacy is important. But again, this is a long talk. I will talk for a long time. But before performance legitimacy, they also kind of. I will give you only one example. I was in Moscow in December, and this Moscow was a lot of snow in Moscow, and they didn't clean the streets. Not at all, nothing. Even in the center of Moscow, on the Leninsky Prospect, if somebody knows. So the streets were not clean, and I'm living there. So I came to the TSG and say why they're not cleaning? And this performance legitimacy, the cleaning of the streets, the services, the simple services that the local state would bring to the citizens. Do you know what they responded me? They say we have no technique. All the technique is on the front line. Are you crazy or what? We are at war. We are at the special military operation. What kind of performance legitimacy you want from us? So this is so this is so which each argument, you can do it something like this, with the argument and say we don't clean the streets because we are at war. They don't say at war. They say in the special military operation. Do you know that there are Nazis in Ukraine? NATO is coming and you won't clean streets? No, this is not a good time. So and so this is and with the KPI, yes, this is a lot of KPI. So this is the indicators of what the governor should do. This. But I don't know any governor that would be cancelled because of the non-fulfillment of this criteria. So this is what. So the important criteria are these are the strategic importance. These are the elections for Putin, right? So this is the election and the United Russia. This is important. All the other things, they're not that important. And the last I wanted to say, you are right about the system is much more complicated than I discussed. That I said, mayors, yes, FSB people, yes, governors. I just want to say about this envoys. So this is what I was expecting. I was expecting the role of this after the war was started. I was expecting these institutions to grow in the importance. I didn't see anything. This is the Federalные округа, the federal districts. Like absolutely not. Because this would be kind of what my idea that they would coordinate their efforts in responding to sanctions. My idea was this, that this would be because I think this is very, very logical, to making them in the larger regions. No way, no indications. And with the Furgal, this is your last question. The Furgal, I think this was a very dirty affair for me. It was a very dirty thing because this was not that much about politics, but this was also he was accused in murders, right? And this was the idea, at least what I got from I had some interviews with the people from Khabarovsk Krai and said that the whole idea was that he quarreled with Rothenberg about the something, and so with this, one of our state oligarchs very close to Putin. So the idea was not his popularity with the population, and not this. And what we also need to understand, that this is what I was not talking about at all, that the regions are included to the patronal networks. There's also the huge patronal network system. Henry Hale, wrote about patronal politics, and these networks are there. They're around Kirienko, they're around Turchak, they're around Volodin. But they're also around the Kovalchuki and Rothenbergs and the oligarchs. So this is another resilient system in Russia. Absolutely informal. This is absolutely informal. At least what I was talking, this is formalized. So this is not to be so.
So then the protests in Khabarovsk were completely unexpected consequence.
Yes, yes. This was unexpected, but it didn't have any continuation, in the other regions. I mean, so this was like explosion. Interesting, yeah. Is Russia a federal country, Jorn? Is Russia a federal country? Yes, Russia is a federal country for two reasons. The first, it's constitutional federation, and you say this is on paper, but this paper is constitution, and constitution is not a simple paper; it's a special paper, at least. Yes. It can be, yes, don't joke with the constitution. This is a constitution. Okay, so this is not just, not this is a constitution. Okay, and the second thing, Putin didn't cancel federalism. He could have canceled federalism. He had enough capacities to cancel federalism, he didn't do it. Instead, he decided for much more complicated option to change the institution on federalism, to misuse the institution so they would work in a special way. And why is, for me, the most important reason is why we can still use the word federalism. That Putin's system exactly uses the institutions of federalism to govern the country, meaning the regional elections, because they still need these elections for legitimacy. They still do need them. These people, they are nominated, they're school of governors, they do all, yes. But still they go through the procedure of non-fair, of semi-closed, of I don't know what, but still the elections. And there is still these people, the representatives of the region are still sitting in the upper chamber of the parliament. This is the Council of the Federation. So this is the bicameralism. So as one of the main two chambers of the parliament is still there as one of the. So it's also a constitutional system of Russia. So that he rules with the institutions of federalism, which would have different effects and different outcomes. That's why. From the other perspective, you are right, because when I tried to develop this idea that Russia is a federation in the United States, and for those who study democratic American federalism, they said, what? What is Russia? Is it Russia? For them, this Russia is absolutely not federalist, and this is not about. So it's absolutely excluded. It should be. And I said, how if you would be me, how you would call Russia? I asked one of the very prominent student of a scholar of American federalism, and he said, you know what he said? He said, I don't care. I don't care, that's not my country. You know, I don't study Russia. You can call it if you want. You can call it, I don't know, Mars, Venus, you know, Jupiter. You can call it, I don't care how you call it. But this is not a federal, this is, I only care for my study of field of research. And this is federalism, and this is not federalism. So I understand. This is the democratic federal student of democratic federalism. They have completely different things. Although there is a pair of good books about Mexican authoritarian federalism. There is and Pakistan, in Indonesia. So this more decentralization. So but there is this thing about ethnic regions. About ethnic regions, yes. Ethnic regions are very important, although I wouldn't put Tatarstan, Bashkortostan in the same basket with Kadyrov's Chechnya. So I think these are different planets. But what I think if we would ever come to, if we would ever in the future would come to post-Putin Russia, and we would talk about federalism, the Russian federalism could only be ethnic. It could not ignore the ethnic republics. This is a bad solution, and this is, I know I'm very much criticized for that, but in Russia the symmetric federalism would never work. Would never work if you would want to keep this territory together. From this perspective, it's very important. But the main variable now is the capacity of the federal center. The main under this, if it's good enough, how Vladimir Gelman would say, if it's good enough, so this is then I can't see any kind of changes from this perspective, but potentially it's very important, and the cities are very important. You are absolutely right. But we took the regions because of we were talking about federalism, and federalism deals with the regions and not with the cities. And according to the Russian constitution, this is local self-government. Although we understand that the regions as a source of public protest. So where is protest potential is concentrated, surely it's in the cities. Absolutely in the cities. And I would say only in the cities, if any. If you would have this, is only in the cities. So cities are tremendously important, tremendously. But not, I would say, in our framework, but probably together with our framework. Thank you very much again for your questions.
Thank you. So I'll open up, and I have Jakob and Daniela. And if you could please just introduce yourself and keep your question quite short so that we have time for 4 or 5 questions before we find. Thank you, Bendik.
First and foremost, thank you, Irina, for coming from far away to share your insights with us. I would like to challenge you on some issues. I completely subscribe to the idea that Jörn has put on the table, meaning that to what extent we should treat Russia as a federalism. I think that in order to understand the discussion about Russian federalism as such, we need to bring to the table another concept, the concept of simulacrum, meaning that you do something that simulates something that you want others to treat as something else than it is. We need to understand that when Putin came to Moscow in 1996, he was made to be in charge of the control section of the presidential administration. And one of his most important tasks was to deal with the issue of asymmetry in the federal system, dealing with all those agreements that were signed between the federal units and the central of the power in Moscow during Yeltsin's time. And I think that this experience has formed him as a kind of person, and this experience has also had a lot to do with the way he decided to deal with the federal structure. There were a lot of discussion about Russia in the 90s, to what extent Russia was kind of a federal country in form, but unitary, or to what extent what used to be a country that was federal in form but unitary in content, that was on the way to become the real federation, but then with Putin's coming to power, this federational aspects have been put much higher under control. So this is one of the questions. The other one is that you completely, not maybe completely, but you are critical to this issue of dual state and the role of technocrats. I think that technocrats still play a major part, because we understand that the way Russia has been dealing with economic sanctions imposed on it by the West has much to do not with the Putin's decisions, but with the way Nabulina has managed the financial system in Russia. So this is still something. She is definitely very much in the shadows. The Kudrin has disappeared completely from the political space, but Nabulina is believed to be the person that saved the Russian economy when dealing with the Western sanctions. And then I was also surprised that the topic of the presentation was federalism, and I would expect you to present at least some maps, because federalism is something that is very nicely represented on maps. But you decided not to present any maps, and I think that two maps would make your argument even more important. We know that in those emigre circles in Russia, there are a lot of maps being circulated showing how the Russian Federation is going to transform into a number of independent republics. You are most probably familiar with those maps showing the Novgorod Republic and Komi Republic and so on and so on. So this is one of the maps that I would expect you to show when discussing the issue of federalism. And the other map that was also very much present during the first months and years of the war is the map of showing the number of casualties per republic as something that could trigger a kind of bottom-up movement that in the end of the day could result in the splitting of the Russian Federation into some independent countries. So I think that you should consider using those maps to make your argument even stronger in a way.
Thank you, Jakob. Do you want? Should we collect the questions that we have so
As
far,
you like.
Irina, and then
As
you pick
you
and
like,
choose a
as
bit?
you
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
as you
So
like.
then Daniela and yeah. Mhm.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. So
Even without the maps.
even without the maps, it was. So I completely agree with you that we should treat governors as stakeholders, but I wonder what kind of stakeholders are they? Could you? Would like for you to clarify what you mean when you talk about stakeholders, because in the discussion with Matthew, maybe I misunderstood you, but I think I heard you saying that your model is not, it doesn't really encompass the patronal network model of Hale, but you're dealing with more formal federal institutions. So then the question is, what kind of stakeholders can there be in this more formalized federal institutions? And then we should, of course, talk about their incentives in such a model. And I was wondering, since you have been working on the Ukraine war as a case, I was wondering whether you had some data on deprivatization processes in the regions as part of the wartime economy, and to what extent that kind of pulls the rug under the feet of these stakeholders, and what kind of what happens or what can happen once their stakes in those businesses are being removed by the state. Why should they still be loyal to the state, to the Kremlin? Yes, thank you.
Take one final, and then you can answer those you want to. Yes.
My name is Lars Birklund. Thank you for interesting thoughts and reflections. I want to pick up on stakeholders too, regarding local governors' tendency to please Putin. They are eager to please to cement the ties. And actually, this question I want to you, Jørn Holm Hansen, because as I heard this, I thought, isn't this actually the same way our governments are eager to please United States, the presidents in the United States, and yeah. That was my question.
It's to you. It's to you about United States.
Yeah, but let's Irina start with the first questions, and then we.
Okay. Jakub. I was about to answer your questions. Sorry to interrupt. So this is about this simulacra. So this is about something. This is something the taste of something postmodern. I feel in these words, But I'm a positivist, okay, and I study institutions. This is fantastic. This is very poetic, I would say, to look at this at the simulacra. But the problem is that I'm dealing with the also with the policy making, and I would, for me, this is a little bit difficult. I think it's very nice to imagine this as a simulation, yes, and to look some ideas of Foucault and Derrida, in discussing the questions of the Russian politics. But I would say this is a completely different framework for me. This is a very different. It's a very different perspective. For me, how they would. Okay, I would say you say they simulate them, but if they simulate them, what does that mean? For me I would say that more, again, how I said, they misuse them. So they use them for different purposes, but they don't simulate them. Because for me, simulate is something. For me, it's virtual. It's not, in a way, not real. But again, I'm not an expert, so I would still stick to the more to misuse. Then about bilateral agreements, I never knew that Putin was dealing with the bilateral agreements between center and the regions. I never know.
Of course, he was in charge of the control committee or control department in the presidential administration, and his main task was to address the issue of asymmetry in relations between Moscow and.
And when it was?
For instance, he was very crucial in dealing with this agreement between Tatarstan and Moscow, for instance.
Putin,
yes.
Yeah, I need to check it. Do you know about this? Have you ever heard about this?
In the late 90s, 98 you said? 98.
It was 94. With Tatarstan it was 94. I'm sorry.
Yes, but
Yes.
He dealt with the results of those bilateral agreements.
Results or the design of them, of those?
The design and
I need to, but I really, this is my first. I never heard about this, but okay. So this is good. So I will check it or not. This is interesting, but still I would say that his probably KGB background is still more important than his legacy, more important than his dealing with these agreements. This is an important question which was also raised by Matthew. This is about technocrats. This is about technocrats and how important are they. I think this is really, we would need to, if I would look about, if I was looking for an interesting topic, what we could study about Russia, I would say probably this is one of them would be the role of the technocrats. But for me, this is not that much technocrats. I will try to explain what I mean. For me, this is more professionals, because when you say technocrats and then you are using this thing in the concept of the dual state, you kind of claiming that these technocrats are important for the decision making and policy making, and I don't think this is the case. I still believe that the Nabiullina and her apparat, they are fantastic, they're very good professionals, but But this is no way that she makes sovereign or autonomous decisions. This is not how she tries to save the Russia from the sanctions regime. This is what you, yes, it shows a lot of professionalism. But previously we believed that these technocrats, and this is technocratic liberals if you want, that they determine the trajectory of the country. Does Nabiullina determine in the slightest way the trajectory of the country? No. She is also who she is. She is a stakeholder. But probably she is also a hostage in a way, because frankly speaking, I think she would very much like to leave the country, but she would never be allowed to do that. I think so. But okay. But this is also they can use professionals, but do they allow professionals to make decisions? I don't think so. And especially now. So this is, and with the maps. Here you just killed me with this question, you know, just absolutely. So this is because I'm a geographer, and this is a shame. It's a shame not to showing the maps, you know. However, you can. I would say I would answer you in a kind of a tricky way. So I would say that not using the maps. My idea was not using the maps was trying exactly to show that for Putin, the map is not a tool, is not a language, is not a source. So this is not the case. So this is he would try, you know, not to look when you what you want to see with the language of the maps. You want to see the differences, basically, and you want to see the borders. The maps are these four. They are good for these four, and this is exactly what he doesn't want, you know, to be concentrated on. So, but I should probably have done this, and there are some good maps are done. This is for sure. So thank you very much. And then the last. So these are the questions of Daniela. Daniela, thank you very much. I cannot answer the question on deprivatization because I don't know, and so far I didn't study it. But this is important. But I just want to very shortly to say about the stakeholders. Stakeholders saying that. This is so talking about stakeholders. First, we build on the literature on power sharing, not necessarily about federalism, but each dictator, even dictator. So this is Bois and Swolik and the other Magaloni and good authors talking about power sharing in autocracies. You have to share power, and how you and with power sharing you potentially already provide the stakeholders. How you kind of stick to this status of the power sharing if we are talking about regional governance in Russia. So the first thing is two things. First, they are personally interested in their personal political survival, not of the institution, but of these people. So when we say stakeholders, we don't mean the institution of regional governance, but we mean these people: Ivanov, Petrov, Sidorov. So these people by names who are personally whose career, you know, and political survival depends on Putin political survival. Because in any way, even the next autocrat would come after Putin. He would, with high probability, remove these Ivanov, Petrov, Sidorov. So these people, you know, probably. In the case of the democratization and probably more competitive election, they would lose their positions anyway. So they are stakeholders, first because they're personally interested, and then because for them any alternative is worse than the current status quo. That's why they are stakeholders. At least this is what they mean by that. So thank you very much, Daniela.
Thank you. Yes, we have a few more minutes. I think Jörn, do you have a short comment? I think we touched upon it already with Irina's final response here, that there is the difference in policing someone in a personalist regime and policing a foreign policy.
This question. Thank you for your question. Yeah. It's interesting. I think I don't see, although your question is of course very, very relevant, to what extent should Norway be completely loyal to the United States? But it's that's another discussion, and I think that I don't really see the parallel between the Norwegian Prime Minister and the U.S. American President and the governor in Russia and Putin. Otherwise, Norway couldn't have pursued the policies we are doing now, which I'm very glad about in the Middle East. So I think it's a little bit, it's another discussion.
But it's obviously good for Norwegian politicians to be pro-NATO and pro-USA. So it's helpful for their own careers and so on. That's my point.
Yeah, but then you have this principal agent question. Norwegian politicians are dependent upon the voters, whereas the Russian governors and presidents in the autonomous republics and so on are, their principal agent is Putin, not the voters.
Oh, I think, yes, Matthew, do you have a short comment?
Then about maps, because I would slightly disagree with Jakob about what maps you should be using. I think you should look at Natalia Zubarevich's maps on the changing economic picture in Russia since 2022, and that is going to be a really interesting thing to track with the research agenda. If we look at
what are these? I'm sorry to interrupt you. What are these?
I'll send a link, but just to sort of summarize.
I know.
Summarize the redistribution of incomes to places like Tuva, the Volga, Urals, Siberia, the boom times that are going on in regions that were previously economically deprived. The incomes and the investment in infrastructure in the front regions and then in the Far East and is going on. It's a very changing picture. All of a sudden, there's a sense that maybe there's even a changing social contract that's going on here. And what will that mean for the regional heads? Because it's going to change the balance of the economic picture. I don't know how you're seeing this yourself, but I can send a link. It's very good maps.
I know.
With this kind of investment spikes.
I know Natalia Zubarevich for many years. She was my teacher in the university. so this is, and this maps I know. I would tell you what you know. This is yes, but again, this is you just cannot. You cannot show a map unless you are prepared to discuss this map in details. You know, the maps are not that you can show and then show you 3 seconds and then go. This is maps that you are meaning. So this is they are dealing with a very important problem. Who are the losers and the winners of this war regionally? And this is important. And Matthew, probably you saw that I never kind of mentioned this question. Why? Because it deserves a special, you know, and then I would spend at least 10 to 15 minutes discussing this. So sure, this is what the war is doing, but this is, and I stop at this. The war is restructuring the Russian space. This was not the case in COVID. Well, with the COVID, the people were waiting that it will come to the previous status quo. Now Russia will never come to the previous status quo. Never. This is really a big structural change in Russia, and not only then I would better show the map, not only, but also the map where they opened, how the military-industrial complex is growing and where. This would be a good map. And these maps so far I didn't see, you know, but I could do one myself, try to do. Yes, this is important, because this is the long-term strategic things, what Putin and, regime is doing with Russia. There, and this is you cannot kind of pull it back, you know, it's not to reverse. What they are doing with the making the military-industrial complex spread in Russia and feeding a lot of regions. By the way, in the Urals, in the central region, in the central federal district, and plus this social things, and plus the big turn to the east, you know, to China. There's also the turn on the map. Yeah, there are fantastic. Let's do another seminar on this.
Yes, I was just about to say that we would be happy
to come from Boston
after you have prepared this map, then and made your analysis. We would of course be very happy to invite you back at a later stage.
It was a joke.
No, but I'm not joking. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Irina, for your presentation. Thank you, Matthew and Jørn, for comments and questions, and thank you to everyone who has come to NUPI today or followed us online. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.